Welcome to Joe's Astrology. And this video isn't really going to be exactly about astrology. I want to talk about where we possibly came from, specifically the quote-unquote fall of man and how it relates to Christianity. So I talked with someone and had this question come up. I wasn't going to do this video I wasn't going to do it this quickly, but I got bored, I got to thinking, and I'm going to do it as quickly as I can, at least as an introductory video tonight, and we'll see how it goes. So, and I'm not saying that this is true, that this is the truth. This is just some of the things that I've learned that make sense to me that quite possibly could be what is going on here. So, let's get into it. The fall of man. First thing I want to say from like a more scientific standpoint or a more earthly standpoint, what is the fall of man? Well, my understanding of the fall of man could be this, and that is the, let's say, cave. I don't know what the right term is, cavemen or Cro-Magnon man, whatever they called the man before the human, where man was walking on the earth essentially like an animal, and really had no real ability to direct their thinking like we do today. They're missing the prefrontal cortex. They're kind of just walking around in a dream on Earth. And whatever that, I don't know what it is. Maybe you can help me out in the comments. I think you get what I'm saying here. And then there was a change to what we are today, and they call a lot of people in scientific community might call this evolution. Well, my understanding is there was no evolution. There was actually an interception. And I think this is what they call it, the interception theory. And that is where aliens actually came down and created what we are today through mating with this species, with this Cro-Magnon man. And again, I'm not going to get into it. If you want to get into that, you can search the internet for it. You'll find it, or message me and I'll give you some more direction there. So the aliens, the specific race of aliens, just invaded Earth, came down to Earth, did this thing, and that can be, from that standpoint, is considered the fall of man. And the reason it's the fall of man is because we went from living in a state of bliss here in paradise on Earth. And then other things may have happened here on Earth as well, but just to kind of keep it simple, we went from being in this state of bliss, this state of ignorance, to this state of knowledge, knowing of our existence, of what kind of like what we're doing, not what we're doing here, but we're here on this planet and we don't know what's going on, etc. So I think hopefully you get the idea. And that's what happened. That's the fall of man. Now, from a spiritual standpoint, from a psychological standpoint, spiritual standpoint, energetic standpoint, a soul standpoint, what happened with the fall of man is during this process, the soul, you could say, inhabits a body, and the soul falls to earth essentially, and it goes through a cycle. And this is what I want to show you. This book is called The Mystical Qabalah. The Qabalah is like another form of astrology, and what we have here is Earth. At the bottom here, this is Earth, and this is where the soul would have came from. Up here, we can just look at it. It's not exactly like this, but let's just say we're just going to use this like the Kabbalah does, the up and down, to simplify it. And we have Earth, and we could just say we have heaven, for lack of a better term. Christians might call it heaven. And then we have here, there's different names for this, but I'm just going to use astrology. We have Earth, we have the moon, we have Venus, we have Mercury, the sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. And the fall of man you can look at as being coming from here and going down and then rising back up. So we can say we have the soul could be on the way down. So at any given time or any different every different person, you don't really know. Are they on their way down from this heaven, or are they on their way up? And it's not exactly like, well, I'm on my way down, I'm on my way up, I have control over this, I'm going to try to get to heaven, etc. Like it doesn't. From my understanding, it doesn't really work like that. It's just a life. Where's a life, and what they have to experience. So let's just say a life is on their way up or down. It doesn't really matter to me. And they're in this Mars. They have this. Let's say they're in the military, and they're really engrossed in the military. They're going to be heavily involved in this Mars aspect of this cycle. Let's say they are maybe in politics. They're heavily involved in this Jupiter aspect. And let's just take Christianity. Let's say the Christian religion, we could say, is this sun here, is the sun religion, and we could say that the Judaism is the Saturn religion. We could say that the Islam is the moon religion. And coming back here to Christianity, being the sun, this is very, if you think of Christianity and the idea of Jesus being reborn, this is, to me, the sun is the idea of rising every day. The sun rises, and if I'm in good health, I'm in a good state every day when the sun rises and I wake up. I have that feeling of being reborn. And this is the state, this optimistic state that the sun likes to be in. This is the optimistic state that Christians like to be in. This feeling of being reborn. Maybe you go through a down period, you sin, etc. You repent, and then you're reborn. This is essentially what the reality that they're existing in. Now, this is also here. We could call this is known as Da'ath. We're going to call it Pluto. Now, what often happens is there is this fall, and you can think of people that like this, where they might go through this period in a life where it's like they go through a fall where they have this experience they don't like, and then they never want to do that again, and they find themselves going to the church, and they feel reborn. They feel, they repent from their sins. They say, I'm never going to do that again. I'm going to live a better life, etc. And this is kind of like a mini cycle, the fall and then the rise up there. You go through this religious process, but then a lot of people that are in this, that find themselves in that state in Christianity, eventually will have a Pluto experience, and will go into a Plutonian reality. And when they go into that Plutonian reality, they're crossing this, which can be very difficult. Think of Pluto as transforming. It transforms them, and they come into more of the truth. And when they come into more of the truth, they're on their way. Essentially, they're on their way back to God. So we think of Christianity or Judaism or any of these religions as a lot of the people that follow them, that they're on the path to God, but not necessarily. It's not necessarily working like that. It's more. I'm not going to get into the details in this video. It would just be way too long. But that's just the best way I can describe it in a short video. Is that there's this fall and then there's this rise. If we can literally just take these religions out of it completely and look at it like that. There's a fall and then there's a going back to God. So also we can look at this as being the idea of expending desires. On your way down, you're in an earthly state. You have a lot of desires that you really want to see happen, and we all have them. And there's many desires that we can have, and by going through those desires, we're getting rid of them until we come to a point where we have no more earthly desires, and we are finally desiring one thing, and that's to go home, essentially for good. And it's not as if you can control this. We know this as an astrologer, I can look at these different charts and look at people's different life experiences, and we can see as if that's the blueprint for the life. That's the experience that person's going through. Some of them are farther away from that point of going back to God, and some of them are are closer. Now, a lot of them that are closer from my research and my research, study, observation, we could say, I enjoy studying yoga, and I've seen a lot of people that are yogis, so to speak, uh, that are teaching yoga, etc. They know a lot about astrology. They know a lot about what I'm saying. They see this as truth, reality, as what's going on Earth, and they would be closer to God. We could see the saint, maybe like I wouldn't want to say the saints, but like a Jesus figure, someone who's becoming really famous in spirituality in the sense, and they begin to affect a lot of lives. And we think of this as this person as being Neptune, this teacher, not just Jupiter, the teacher, the guru, but this highly advanced spiritual teacher that has, and these guys, if you study them, they have so much life experience, even without having life experience. I mean, it's amazing the life experience that they teach through being being in the spiritual position that they're in. And I'd say the difference between them and someone who's like in a religion like Christianity or any religion. There's many religions. The spiritual teacher or the priest, etc. In say Christianity, the difference is they're usually living in more of a state of fear. As I said, it usually comes from that state of fear. You think of your own life or any life. You grow up, you have some experiences, some bad experiences, you get afraid and you go to church. So this is more still living in this like state of fear, where this person isn't living in a state of fear. They're much closer to God. And I think a lot of people look at this, or a lot of people in general, they are they want to say the right things, they want to do the right things, but that's really not the reality they're living in. They're just kind of making things up because they don't want to feel guilty and things like that. I mean, the vast majority of people are existing below Pluto, okay, below here. Because it doesn't really work exactly the way I think of exactly the way I'm saying it. I'm just trying to simplify it here. But you have, people in families and living in comfort, and they have to do that. That's the life that they have. They have people that are living in this beauty, fashion, Venus, luxury goods, nice things. You got people living on the earth, living in like a very earthly state where they're farming the earth. They're very close to the earth, things like that. And there can be like a mixture of this. Same thing with Mercury. You have people like working in very Mercury states of service and tricking people to get things, etc. It's just most people are living below this. To keep it simple, below here, they might. And again, you see the cross there with the the sun and the cross. This idea of being reborn. This isn't necessarily a bad place to be. Like I said, I don't think you really have control over it for the most part. Most people aren't going to see this video. Most people saw this video. If I force people to see this video, or they kind of came across it, they're going to reject it. They're gonna live their life that they were, programmed to live to a certain degree. And one more thing I wanted to add. I got these books back here for a reason. They're titled "The Gods of the Egyptians," and I think I haven't studied Egyptian culture that much, but a little bit that I have. It seems like there's something to do here, something important with the Egyptians. You could think that if this is all true, that if everyone was conscious of this, that you could wonder what would they put importance on. If everyone was conscious of this, conscious of a life path, etc. I'm not sure that that's really under our control, but it's possible that the Egyptians had at least a better understanding of this, in a sense, at least from a reincarnation standpoint. They knew who had the real power versus the fake power. Real power being those closer to God or the source on their way back, and those who had no power in really experiencing the fall in its fullest. And it seems like, in some sense, we have it's a little bit backwards right now. So I don't know much about that. If you do, that'd be interesting to talk about as well. But I think there's something there with this and the Egyptian culture, and probably many other cultures as well. So that's some of my understanding of the fall of man. Those who are, most of us, including myself, are living in a state of ignorance, and there's many different degrees. Like I said, many people that watch, if most people watch my channel, they would never they would never understand it. They'll never watch it for their entire life. That's a degree of ignorance, if what I'm saying is true. And then there's some people that have some knowledge that I don't have, and they're living in less state of ignorance. Some people get this knowledge from not from books or from other people. They just intuitively know it. It comes to them from who knows where. But we could also say that this is, you can kind of look at this idea of the sun rising and falling at night, and then also when you go to sleep, you dream. You go to sleep, in a sense, you go back to where you came from. You're in the dream, in a dream state where you can in some cases, where you can learn to control your dreams, because in that, a lot of people want to be in that state, because that's where essentially where you came from, where the soul came from. You could call it God, heaven, etc., the astral plane, wherever that is in interdimensional space. You are free to do what you want. In a sense, you have much more. There's much more freedom if you think of like dreaming. If you get into a point where you can control your dreams, you can do whatever you want in your dreams. There's almost no limitations. But here on Earth, as you fall, that's what we call it, the fall. Now you have limitations. There's everyone is experiencing limitations here on Earth. You cannot do what you want. Many people are trying to, through technology, to get to a point where they have more freedom. But if you really study it, it's not doing anything. Technology isn't giving people more freedom. It's the same prison. It's a prison. The fall of man is also known as a prison. You think of a prison as being doing your time. Everyone has their own life, and through that life, you're doing your time. There's only so many things you can learn and do. If you really break it down, that's the prison that you're in. And then when you die, and if you think of reincarnation, if there is, this is part of a reincarnation cycle, you reincarnate into a new body, a new personality. You do not have the same personality. Me as Joe, as the astrologer, in a new body, in a new personality, might be Mike the plumber. So it's this idea of being released from the prison and put into another prison. So I hope you enjoy that little introductory to the fall of man, how it relates to astrology and qabalah, just kind of ranting along here, jumbling things together. If you have any questions, leave in the comments or send me a message, and maybe we can do some live discussions on this sometime in the future.